Every time you do something great, expect backlash, you know what I'm saying? Because people are not gonna like when you know, stir up things. But that's just it, man. That's what makes the world great, is that, you know, different things are going to happen and we all have to adjust. You know what I'm saying? The world just have to adjust. It's a new day, you know, people are speaking out, you know what I'm saying? So I commend that whole situation. We're opportunists in our country, you know, so we got to calculate that along with politics, there's a lot of money in how things used to be. I think that when you are attacking change, you're looking to see that a lot of people are losing their livelihoods, or they have to change their financial status, or even power. So they don't want to change because it affects them in other ways. And some people would, you know, they hesitate to go forward, but the way that the world is like either you roll with it or you're gonna get rolled on. You know what I'm saying? That's just a fact. Well, that's very difficult question. There's no one basic answer for that. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think it's situational, you know, and I have two grown men actually that still live at home. You know, one son that's 29 and one son that's 23. I don't think there's a particular age. You know, I think there's situations. I don't agree with keeping or allowing an adult to stay that is not contributing to the household. Right. And in the same way, if your household is not big enough or can hold someone in that household, then you have to talk about, you know, a better way where you can live comfortable, you know. And then also, if you are starting your own family, you know, you get married and you have kids and stuff, then that may be terms to find your own place. But for some reason, we tend to think that at a certain age, we have to, as parents, as adults, we think that we have to kick kids out of the household just because. You know, my situation, I left the house, my mom's house, when I was 17 years old. And I left because I had opportunity to go to college. And then also, I wanted to relieve my mom of some stress financially, in a sense. So I had the means to move out and to get on my own, and I was ready for it. And not all kids are like that at age 17, 18 years old. They still need more, you know. But I don't think that there's a certain age where parents should feel like, okay, now I got to kick my kids out because this is what the world says, or the world says that I'm doing them an injustice by keeping them home. I don't think that determines if they're a grown-up or not. You know, they can still be very responsible being home, taking care of their own bills, helping and contributing. And, you know, and the thing is family. As long as you guys are getting together and there's a certain order and people are being responsible, then, you know, they can, you know, they can stay. Right. I think one of the biggest things that causes that friction where, you know, either the kid wants to leave at an early age or the parents want the kids gone at an early age is dysfunction. Yeah. You know, when you have dysfunctional households, then it's just like, I can't wait for you to leave. I can't stand you. You know what I'm saying? So it's more than that. And, you know, it's sad, but in a way it's true that when you have people from other cultures or even foreigners, they have a structure. You know, they have a structure where, you know, I want to be around my grandfather. I want to be around mom. And they love each other. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is the key which works in our household, is because we have structure in our household and we understand that, you know, there's certain communication that goes on. We talk to each other, and when we're home, we don't just go in our own separate corners. You know, I'm not just downstairs in the man cave and my boys aren't just in their room. We come out together, we have dinner, we talk. You know, every morning we say good morning, we say good night to each other, and these are adults. But we've created a family atmosphere. You know, this is family. And a lot of times, you know, as Americans, we don't have that structure of family, you know. And sadly to say, with African Americans, that whole structure of family is not what it needs to be. So we feel like I got to get out and I got to get my own. And we all know that, with a group, you can do more with a group than you can do independently. And as far as the financial side and saving and helping each other, because that's the pattern that a lot of foreigners, they understand it. Let's build one household up, then we get another household, then to everyone, you know what I'm saying? But it's a lot of love in those houses too. So it's not like, okay, we're fighting and we're doing all that stuff. Sometimes in African American homes, we can have a lot there, but it's a lot going on and a lot of, animosity and bitterness in that one household. So we feel like we got to leave, and that's the whole thing, is that I think the pressure comes to whoever the younger person is that, is living at home. They hear the world tell them that you need to go. You need to go, or you're less of a person. You're not an adult, and it takes someone with confidence to be like, listen, like you're saying, mind your business. This is my path. My parents probably don't have a problem with it. This is how we do, but everyone's telling them you need to go, or they get on your parents like for keeping you there. And it's just like, what happened to love? It's just like we love each other. It's not a hassle for us to be in the same household. You might have that as your experience, but I'm not going to let that be my experience, even that with our kids. Because I know people are like, you got these two grown men living in your house. We love our boys being home. You know what I'm saying? We love it. You know what I'm saying? And for us, it's just like, okay, when they start their own families, of course, we want them to go and do their own thing. But we have a home, that's big enough for all of us. We don't get on each other's nerves. Well, sometimes we do. But we have these discussions. We have debates. You know what I'm saying? We do all of these things that we build each other and we feed off of positive energy. So why do they have to leave? You know what I'm saying? Who, like you're saying, like, who's creating this? People like, what works for us works for us. Like, you do have to mind your business at a certain point. And remember before in another segment, I talked about sometimes, the student has to become the teacher has to become the student. And that's what it's about. It's teaching each other, you know what I'm saying? And it's a beautiful thing that you can communicate to your mom, but that's your job. That's growth. And you know what I'm saying? And at some point, as a parent, you're going to be like, this is my boy telling me, you know what I'm saying? So it's pride because she could feel like she raised a young man that is going to speak up, but he's also educating. And that's what we need as older people. I learned so much from my boys, and I'm glad they're home, because from music to, whatever it is, sports, whatever, they keep us going. Now that family structure is needed. When we're separated, we don't get a lot of that stuff. And that's important, and it was one other thing that you stated was like, when I left home at 17 years old, it wasn't no friction with me and my mom. I knew that I had to do this because I felt like I was ready for it. I had a supporting girlfriend at the time. It became my wife, so I had the structure. And then plus, every time I tell people about the story of me leaving home early, I make sure to say that it was no conflict. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's good. Me and my mom had a great relationship. I always checked on her. I went off to college, and I always did my best to make her proud. So it's no animosity. It ain't because I'm leaving because she kicked me out, but sometimes people think that, they have to go, or it's got to be on bad terms, but those things happen. But in the same way, if you're living in a household and everyone's there, it doesn't mean that everyone's at each other's throat. It's just like we understanding what family is about. And sometimes family is going to protect, they're going to help you grow until you're ready to go, and like we're saying, there's no age or timetable on when that happens. Love your family, be with your family as long as possible. And we always say it, like, life's short. I'd rather be like, wow, I spent a quality time with my loved ones rather than they left early and we all were independent, but I don't love them and now they're gone. You know what I'm saying?
Who is Deon Candia?
Deon Candia is a simple person. I like to look at myself as being a realist. I've learned a lot, and I love using my experiences to help people. I live in that saying that I wish that I knew now when I was younger, what I know now. And what I try to do is I try to give that to the youth, to younger people, to people my age. I try to use my experiences. Sometimes you go through life and you're just like, God, why did this happen? Why did that happen? You know what I'm saying? And when I was younger, I always was like, why am I going through this? Why am I dealing with this? And I dealt with a lot of different things. And God's been there and helped me overcome. But then as I got older, I started to see and it started to make sense that my experiences weren't just for me. My experiences was to help other people. So my journey has been, how do I find ways to use my experiences to help other people? And I've did it through different ways. I've done coaching, I've done teaching, I work in the probation field when I first got out of college. I do mentoring, I do charity work. My wife and I have been part of starting a church, Expect a Miracle Ministries, a few years ago, where we give to people, we share our lives. So I'm a person that just loves giving. I love helping people, and I love helping people evolve. You know what I'm saying? So it led me to a lot of different things, even starting this new company where I could advise and help, parents of student athletes or just kids, period. Mentoring, tutoring, helping physically train, whatever it is. So I look at myself as a person that likes to give and to help other people. It was rough, but what the thing was when I was younger, it was rough, but my mom did such a great job of hiding the fact that we didn't have anything. You know what I'm saying? She instilled so many values that we focus on the value of certain things. And yeah, we got the jokes and stuff, like, because we didn't have a lot. We shared clothes. We did all those things that from a single parent household that happened. But it was love there. It was tough love. My mom did a great job with just teaching us about the real world. So growing up, we were tight knit. My brothers and sisters, we learned all the basic things. We learned how to cook and how to clean and how to do all those different things that carried on to who we are as individuals. So it was rough in a sense of, the world looking at, they don't have a lot, and we financially we struggle, but it was good because we had good times. And it was a lot of dysfunction. I had a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles that lived around me, and we had a lot of fun. It was a lot of dysfunction, but we learned to love and we learned to fight. One of the biggest things that I've seen and took away from my mom, and God bless her, it's been 3 years since she passed away, is that you work hard. I used to always see my mom get up at the same time, 5:30 in the morning, leave the house at 6:30 in the morning, and work every day. And she made sure I had this interest in sports that she couldn't come to a lot of the events, but she made sure that I was signed up for PAL and for Little League, my brothers and I. So she gave me an avenue to make a way out for myself. So I felt like it was my responsibility to use what she sacrificed so that when I have kids, that I can make it to another level and help them get to another level. I was the first one in my family to ever go to college, and that was very important. Now I have one college graduate at home and another son is in senior year, and I'm gonna have 2 college graduates. And that's because my mom instilled hard work and not making excuses. No matter what, we didn't have a lot, but we didn't make excuses. And I'm not saying that we were the perfect kids, because we fell into different things, you know what I'm saying? But we had value, and we had values that were deeply instilled, and they still help us out today, all my siblings and I. So coming from where I came from, it was tough, but it was definitely something that I wouldn't change for the world. Definitely. I was always that kid when I was younger. I was always fast. I just knew how to run. You know what I'm saying? And I had different people, that supported me. I mean, people not like official coaches, but people that in the neighborhood, little older kids, they would have me run and race against people. And it just built in me something where I took pride in running. And it led to other sports, so, but I always had that love for running. And then so I played football, but then I ran track. And then what track did, it just gave me, football was a team sport. Track gave me identity of that I can have for myself, because when you're running, it's just you know what I'm saying? But I use that as a way of my escape, as a way of just, getting out there running and pushing myself and competing. But that's life. You know what I'm saying? When you're out there, sometimes it's going to be just you, and you got to keep pushing and you got to keep motivating. And that's the one thing I love about sports, period, is that it's not just really just about the sport. It's about who you are as a person and who you can be. You train to get to a certain level and you keep pushing yourself, but along the way, you humble yourself to people that can help you get better, and that's just life. Well, college was definitely an eye-opener for me because I was a decent athlete. I was a pretty good athlete. But when I went to college, it was like everyone there was good athletes. You know what I'm saying? So what it taught me how to do in college was to adjust my life and to really seek out what I want to do. Because I went to college with a dream, like a lot of the young people have, going to the NFL. But when I got to college, I started seeing that, listen, I got options. So what turned out to be me thinking that sports was going to be it, I started doing well in school. You know what I'm saying? And for the first time, I started back to back. I made the dean's list, and I never was an academic kid, but I learned how to program myself to be disciplined and to handle business in college. So that opportunity, it lent its way to other things and me taking advantage of my education more than what sports offered. And I did have an opportunity where I did a workout for a couple of professional teams. They came and worked me and a few of the guys out and stuff. But my passion was like with other things, and at that time I was pursuing my relationship with God and learning. So I had a lot of things that I wanted, and I had a family. And I wanted to give, and I wanted other areas. But the whole thing with sports, it opened me up to go to different places and to do different things and to create options for myself. And I took other options opposed to just trying to stick it out with sports. And that's what a lot of athletes need to do, is to see that these sports they're good, but find your passion and use the options that these sports are giving you. The hope was actually when I went to school and graduated Springfield, Massachusetts, and I became a part of a church out there that did this program. It was actually worldwide. It was helping other people everywhere, and what we did was a lot that introduced me to charity work. We went and signed people up for immunization shots. We taught them about different health issues. So it was a outreach program that my church and my family was a part of for a number of years, which is helping people in poverty-stricken areas and just making them aware of the different assistance that was out there to help them be healthy. So that was a great experience, and that kind of like catapulted me to want to do things along the lines of charity. And even when I moved back to Jersey, to get involved with things such as Team 96, which is Muhammad Wilkinson's foundation that helps raise money for scholarships for students in the Union County area. That's and I work with the youth since I would say over 20 years, my wife and I. And a lot of times the outside world would think our youth are lazy and that they don't care, and that's so not true. Our youth are bright, they're witty. It's so much that I learned from our youth. But here's the thing, they have to be taught. You know what I'm saying? We're quick to criticize, and they get frustrated. The youth get frustrated because we want to tell our own stories. We want them to live their lives through our eyes. You know what I'm saying? And that's not it. So one of the big misconceptions is like they're like heartless, they're lazy, they're, you know what I'm saying? All these different things that are negative. And I just found that once you're tied in with the youth, you see how much they offer. And my thing is that sometimes as adults, we could be lazy because we just want a quick fix instead of having relationships with them and teaching them. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen like some kids who were labeled at-risk kids turn their lives around, and we've been part of it. We've had kids live with us. We've been to weddings, we've been to baby showers, and we've been to all these things of kids that a lot of society have written off. But there's a lot of great things in our youth, and I think one of those misconceptions is that they don't care, or they're lazy, or they don't try hard. I just think they need to be taught, they need to be led, and they need to see good leadership as well, good examples. The thing is, when you're teaching sports, when you're around around kids, period. It's about relationships. That's the bottom line. You could be a great coach, you could be a great teacher, but if you're not building a relationship with the youth, then you're not going to be able to help them reach their full potential. And it's all about relationship and teaching them and developing them. You know, it's a lot of times what I see now is our youth, they mimic things instead of going through a process, you know. So my thing is to explain and to show them, you know, how to do certain things. And that way they'll have that in their, what we call their life toolbox, you know. And when they have things in their life toolbox, now they don't turn back. So when things get tough, they know they have the skills. And when you have the skills, then you just keep going forward and you deal with adversity. And when you do that, you know, you're building your mind to be a winner. Because even if you can't win at something, you can find something that you can win at. And that builds that mental toughness. And that goes through sports, it goes through life. It's just helping them to develop step by step. And when they see a little bit of progress, then that makes them want to go even further. And again, that goes back to that mental toughness, that mental state of mind. And then when you have something and you're invested in something, then you just keep going forward. And you don't want to go back because you know that now I have something invested. But it starts with a relationship. You got to help them, you got to show them, you got to let them know that you'll be there, and then they'll have that toughness that even when you're not there, they're going to still go forward. Yes. There was 2014. Yeah, 2014 won the state championship, and that was a great experience because I'm a Linden person. You know, Linden, New Jersey. I was born and raised there, and I watched, you know, all the sports, and I've seen what Linden had to offer, and Linden had in the last few years have been excelling in basketball. You know, our basketball team at a high school level is done well. You know, and football has had a decent program, but we hadn't won the state championship since I believe it was 85. And so when I took over, you know, I took over a team that was 1-9. So it was like that. It was like people were like, you know, even though we you know did bad some years, we never was in that situation where we only won one game. So I took over, you know, and took on that challenge, and I just built the culture. You know, started building the self-esteem up, started having them dress a certain way, started having them sit in the front of the classroom, doing all these different things that changed the culture. And then, oh, absolutely. It was way more than football. It was about the whole perception, too. You know, what an athlete should be, what a student athlete should be. And we changed the perception. And then we started believing. You know, one of the funny thing is, like, during game day, I had to dress up, like, really, like a tie on, hard bottom shoes, you know, dress up and go to school. And they were used to wearing their jerseys and stuff, you know. But after we started winning, you know, they seen the concept. And it was funny because that year we had won the state championship. And even after the football season, a lot of the kids, they still dress that way. They went from never wearing shoes to ties, so they wanted to dress that way. And other sports and other kids started dressing that way, imitating what the culture was, because they seen that it's not about how you dress, but sometimes people see you in a different light. And when people see you in a different light, they treat you a different way. And that's what I wanted to show them, is that it's about options. Sometimes you got to change other people's perception of you. You don't have to be different, but sometimes you got to get people's attention, showing them that you are more than just what they think you are, you know? So it was changing the culture, and that was a great feeling to be able to start off at 1 win and 9 losses, and then in 7 years have 10 wins and 2 losses in the state championship. And from that point, I gave it up and I pursued other things. Yeah, Team 96 is, Muhammad Wilkerson, who played on the Jets for 7 years, I believe, is now with the Green Bay Packers. He's from Linden, New Jersey, and I followed his career. I was assistant coach when he was in high school, and then he went to Temple. And even at Temple, my family and I, we supported him, stayed in touch with him. We went to a couple of the games that he had out in different states or whatever. So I always kind of mentored him and encouraged him. And he made it. You know, he was a first-round draft pick. And after he made that move, he reached back to his community, and he asked his mom, could she get a contact with me, and could we work together and form this foundation, which we call Team 96. And basically what we do is we solicit money and funds to help kids, out with school. Whether it's books, whether it's paying off a bill, something that, kids who have earned the right to go to college, we try to alleviate some of the financial responsibilities that come along with it. So that's what we do. We have different events, from bowling events where we have celebrities there, to I personally help run a free camp, just to get kids involved and to teach them about the ins and outs. And Muhammad just donates a lot of his time, and again, he shares his experiences, just giving back to his community. So Team 96, I've been the president of it for 5 years, and just helping out, just trying to keep things going. And it's a way of us just giving back to the kids that need the help. Again, I played 3 different sports, so all throughout the year I was doing some kind of sport, you know what I'm saying? So what I had to do was, and I wasn't a great student. I was like, a C student, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I had to surround myself with people that did well. You know what I'm saying? I had to make my circle of people that taught me how to balance, because that's one of the misconceptions. And my situation is different because, like I said, my mom she was the only one, so she was always working. So I had to be responsible and say, if I want to play sports, I got to figure this out. And I went along and got information from people that was making it happen. But a lot of that responsibility is the parents, I definitely believe, and it's a culture. I think we need to have a culture where adults understand that I have to put these kids in a position that they can succeed. So what I did wasn't traditional as far as, having the support from home or even with some of my coaches, but the path is that adults need to work together and to have that those guidelines for kids, for student athletes, so they understand that just as much as I like to compete on the field, I got to take that same zeal and I got to compete in the classroom. And it's really teaching life, you know what I'm saying? Because the competition doesn't stop. You're going to be competing for a job one day, and you got to have skills to do your homework. You got to do research. You got to do all that stuff. Even when playing sports, I had some good teachers around me that told me, that playing sports is still learning. It's still academic in a sense, because you got to learn plays, you got to learn time management, you got to study things, you got to watch film. So you got to try to incorporate all of that and feed that to our athletes, our young athletes. They're like, this is learning. You're always learning. And if you don't like to learn, then you're not going to be using your full potential even on the field. So I kind of bought into that whole concept that if I want to be a better athlete, I have to be a better student for me. One of the interesting things, because I talk about my background in sports and how I played sports since I was like 7 years old. So it's always been in me. I've done well. Thankfully, I was able to do it. So when I had kids, when my son Keon, he played football. Both of my boys were real active. They played sports and stuff. But Keon, I actually coached him in high school. And, everyone was looking at him, looking at me like, what are you going to do now? What, like, you going to follow your dad's step? Your dad was a coach. You got to do this. So I think somewhere in his mind, he thought, in order for me to succeed, I got to reach these expectations that people had. Oh, man. So I remember at the end, I think it was his 11th grade year, going into his senior year, and he did well with sports, you know what I'm saying? But I told him, I said, listen, Keon, and I sat down, I remember having a conversation with him. You do not have to be an athlete. You do not have to go to college to play a sport. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what anybody say. You don't have to listen to it. I'm going to be proud of you. But here's the one thing. Whatever you do in life, you have to push hard at it. You know what I'm saying? So I said, have a plan. Have a plan of what you want to do. It don't have to include any sports, but have a plan. And that's what the message needs to be to a lot of young people. It's not that you have to follow a path. You don't want to follow a path? That's fine. But what is your path? What are you going to do? And who is your circle? How are you going to use your resources to achieve what you want to achieve? And that's the bigger message.
Absolutely.